Good evening. This is Paranormal Science Lab Live. I'm Lisa.
I'm John.
And we are awaiting our guest.
We're waiting.
We're having technical difficulties connecting with our guest, so we're going to chat for a little bit, and hopefully he can join us in just a little bit.
God, I hope she don't ask me a hard question. I don't have much sleep from last night's show.
Last night's show.
It hurts. Make it go away.
It's been sort of a long weekend for John and I.
Oh my God, people, really.
The realities of running a team.
She runs the team. I just run around with the team.
But he's the tired one. No, we might as well take a chance to talk about some of the things that we're going to be doing and locations. Either that or we'll give you a math quiz.
Math quiz! 1 plus 1 is, well, the square root of 354,551 divided by 2.
That's more than I want to think about. So let's talk about what we're going to be doing with PSL.
Somebody's actually trying to figure that shit out.
No problem.
They're going, what did he say, 550? What's I going to do? I got to do something. Go ahead. What are we doing on Paranormal Science Lab? We've got a lot of crap going on.
Everybody that is in the Midwest, if you are wanting to go to live events, you need to check out our website and the PSL Facebook page. We have tours going in 5 locations now in 4 cities.
I'm laughing at Eric, sorry. He says, if John has 4 batteries in his EVP recorder, how long does the train take to get to Chicago?
3 hours and 10 minutes.
42. Purple.
But you know, we are doing a lot of live events, and we've gotten people from across the country, so anyone out there that either just wants to come, check out some great history and good haunted locations with a history dating even prior to the Civil War, give us a yell out, and if you want to book, what was that?
Nothing.
Okay, very sensitive.
I'm very sensitive.
And if you are a team wanting to investigate some locations that haven't been overly done, give us a yell because we can hook you up there.
What?
Are you feeling all right today?
No, I'm tired. You kept me up too late last night.
I'm sorry. I think it was more
It was Uncle Clarence.
Uncle Clarence. Well, last night, actually, our investigation last night kind of illustrates some issues that come up in investigations, and just practical issues of determining what's going on. Don't you think?
What the hell are you talking about? You mean things happen in investigations? I thought we were there just to BS.
Really?
I just sit around and talk to people that are not quite solid.
Yeah. Like Uncle Clarence.
Uncle Clarence. He was a fun character. He was a nice guy, really. He didn't have a whole lot to say.
You are a lot of color.
Well, I'm trying to make the show go faster. We got an hour of me BSing about nothing. So yeah, we've got a lot of tours going on, you guys. We've got Kendrick House over by Carthage, Missouri next weekend. That should be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Kendrick House never disappoints, ever. In fact, that was one of my. You have a serious question. How did you guys? Oh, I do have a serious question. Let me just put a question mark after I do have a serious question. How did you guys set up the tours and other community service stuff you all do in and around Joplin? Lisa?
You're good at cutting. You're good at cutting, aren't you?
I have no idea. I'm just a monkey.
Lots of networking. And that's one thing that I hear from a lot of groups, that they have a hard time getting into commercial buildings, historic sites. We do tend to specialize in that. And a lot of it is a lot of footwork, a lot of networking, talking to people you know. You may be surprised who you know that owns a historic building or home that's looking for ways of promoting themselves. And really, everything that we've gotten into has really happened that way. But you have to be willing to talk to people, get yourself out there, go talk to people. And
you can't be scared to be yourself.
Right. Go risk them saying, this is too freaky, too weird for me.
And even on the tours. I mean, anybody that's been on the tours with us, it's going to have to be yourself. You have to be prepared for that,
That's
right.
Especially
if you're sensitive, people are going to go on these tours that you may work with on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind.
That's very true.
And no, I will not read your tip notes. What? I just won't.
Okay.
Well, maybe for mine.
Yeah, John's looking for a second job. So
I'm looking for a job. I'll rake legs.
Well, maybe we can talk about a little bit of our view on things. We usually have guests in here and we hear their views on things, but we don't talk a lot about our views.
We share our views plenty.
You do?
Yeah, I want to share with you. I want to be there.
See what I have to deal with. How about provoking?
We hate provoking. Hate it. Let's put it to you this way. If you were to come to my house and start talking smack and threaten me and act like a fool, I'm going to put you right back out the door. And I would expect that from anybody that is not in solid form anymore, because you got to think about that, their energy. And your energy. Your energy is more solid than their energy. So guess what? You're easier to push. Keep that in mind.
Well, and you can be affected in ways by energy that you aren't affected by another
psychological person. Shoot, yeah. Even if you don't provoke, people forget that in this field that not everything you run across is going to be on the up and up or happy about it. And so that could affect you in a lot of ways. The psychological side of things is sometimes worse than the physical. We know that from a lot of different things in life, but really with paranormal field. So
it's very true. And then, it kind of just brings up the subject. There's a lot of people will warn people and new teams of things that, and it kind of becomes drudgery, that there can be spirits that are not up front, that are tricksters, that etc. And it's not just to be the boogeyman type story to say everything is negative, because in my opinion, most things are not negative, but those are always possibilities. And you have to be careful on. I think that is one thing that with the proliferation of mass media in the field is that people assume that everything they can just go out and do what they see on TV.
Right, they can grab a K2 and a camera and a recorder and bam, they're paranormal investigators.
And that there's that's all there is to it. And
we really thought.
But this weekend also kind of brought home to me that what a team can do for a person. We were helping someone that was just very, very appreciative to have someone come in, and more than having an investigation, to hear them out, to listen to what they've been through, and to feel like that they weren't being slighted or made fun of.
Well, yeah, and I think that this weekend's client was more happy that they could actually talk to somebody that could, also got the same information that they had. She was going to write down a name that she had actually heard, and before she wrote it down, I told her the name, and she was like, "Well, I guess I don't need to write it down." Sorry.
Exactly, and I think that it's easy to get caught up in, I want the perfect picture, or the perfect Class A EVP, etc. To forget that when you're dealing with private investigations, you're dealing with people who are going through something that for them is very intense and affects their daily life. And what we're doing is really secondary to helping them. And especially for people that are in an intense situation that they don't have the option, they can't pick up and move, and things like that.
Well, and this person, she specifically said that she liked the house since she was a kid. She wanted to own the house. So, I mean, it was kind of like her dream house, in a way. Mm-hmm. So she, I mean, and I don't know that she was really upset about them being there. I think it was more the fact that she couldn't really, I mean, she's afraid to talk to people about it because they would think she's crazy. Mm-hmm. I have a burp. Sorry. Okay. What about the power of intention? Ooh.
There you
That's
go.
a pretty deep subject, Eric, actually.
I'll let you start.
The power of intention. Okay, so if you follow the earth-based faiths, and I'm going to start there, and I know intention is not entirely on those, but you will find that they believe that certain woods, certain stones, certain things have different meaning or can do certain things. I'm a firm believer that yes, stones, woods may have different energies and can assist. However, without you actually believing that they will, it's not going to do anything. Just because you have a stone on or a branch hanging off your key ring or something, I don't know, but doesn't mean that it's going to heal you. I mean, your intention is, your energy has to connect with that energy, and if those energies don't mesh, it's not going to do anything. So that's my take on intention.
And I think that, but I think that really is appropriate in the field, in that I think from the perspective of an investigator, the intention you go in with really affects how an investigation goes.
Well, and a person's energy can affect an investigation. If you are not in the right place of mind, right state of mind, you should not be in an investigation, especially if it's a private investigation.
Right.
Because you don't want to stir something up that, because we go in for a night and we're gone, right? I mean, yeah, we may go back for follow-ups or evidence review or whatever, but I'm saying you don't want to go in there with that bad state of mind to stir something up. Or, you got to think that if your energies are low, if you're sick or you're not feeling well, you're just grumpy, a lot of times that's putting you at risk. What if this entity is, I'm not going to say demonic because that's just silly, but what if it is not an evil entity, but a negative entity? What if it does want to try to do some sort of psychological damage, or what if it is trying to, hurt the people in the house? Well, you just put yourself at risk, which isn't doing the people in the house any good. So it's really, it behooves you. I always wanted to use that word in a big way, and I actually used it. It behooves you to reschedule it or, excuse yourself from the investigation. I went through a time where, I needed a break, and Lisa understands. I needed a break. I wasn't in the right frame of mind to do anybody any good. So, now that I'm back, I'm still not in the right frame of mind.
But just for different reasons. But I think also intent is very relevant as far as the client in a private residence investigation, because just in the last few weeks, we've dealt with some private clients that have taken very different views of activity and really very similar claims and activity going on in the houses, but their perception of it is so different that
completely different.
And that their intent, based on their perception of what activity means, affects their experience in their house, and I think it affects their ability to deal with it effectively, and also causes additional strains in the family.
Well, it causes marital strain. I mean, it can cause marital strains, and it's not that the entity's doing anything. It's the person's intentions or perception of the situation. So, I mean, you know, it's just like anything in life. I mean, if your job's going bad or whatever, I mean, those types of things cause strain in any relationship, in any family. I mean, any way you look at it. I mean, it takes a pretty strong person for it not.
But then on the other hand, if you've got someone who says, kind of just says, this is a part of life, this is a part of the universe, and is accepting of that without putting a good or bad connotation on it, I think they're much better able to deal with it and even make peace with it or work with the situation for the entity to understand that perhaps some of what they're doing is bothersome or troubling.
Right. And I think that has to do with, I mean, we could really get into a spiritual discussion with this, and that wasn't really where I was going to go today, because I'm tired. But she kept me out all night.
I know I'm bad about that.
It was morning before I hit bed. I'm an old man.
Yeah, I'm bad about
39.
that.
Old. I forgot what I was going to say. Basically, I believe pretty much what Lisa just said about universal energies and everything being part of that energy, even us that are a solidic form. And the energies that we, as paranormal investigators, get the privilege of documenting are merely energies that are coming in and out of that mass grouping. I mean, I think that we all know that everything is energy. We've said that before on the show. We say it on our tours. It's all solid. It's solid. It's not solid. Whatever. It's all energy. Everything is not really what it seems, right? So she didn't behoove me to stay there, but look, a squirrel. So when we're dealing with the paranormal, it is strictly them allowing us to document their existence. And if you're a spiritual person, and really it doesn't matter what spirituality you are, you work with spirit all the time. You know, whether it's the Father, Son, and the Holy Ghost, or you're a shaman and you walk, journey into across the veil in underworlds of the worlds, but it doesn't matter. You're still working with spirit, no matter how you look at it. So we all know that, and in the paranormal field, we should be aware of that, because we can cause more energy issues in someone's home because we're more aware of it. So we should be able to stop what we're doing, and I'm losing my train of thought. But
to step back and
we should be able to, and we do that. We'll actually, I notice that when I'm working, and Lisa too, that I get tired and drained, and sometimes I have to go outside and regroup, and because if I'm too tired, I can't get anything, and I can't connect. So if I can't connect, then it's kind of useless. But so we go outside, we'll take a break, and I'll smoke my fake cigarette and have some Diet Mountain Dew.
But but when we're talking about energy with everything, I think that's why objects often become important in some investigations, because energy can be attached to an object,
Sure.
Can be used as a vessel, etc. And I think in today's world we kind of shy away from that anymore, from those assumptions. But again, the energy is there to be used, and it goes back to power of intent too, because if someone even 100 years ago had a very strong attachment to a pocket watch or whatever you're talking about, energy is affected, that object is affected by that energy, and that can remain and be affecting what's going on now. And in our empirical-based world, we tend to shy away from that these days, but I find that that's really true.
Empirical. What does empirical mean? Somebody...
Fact-based.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Yes.
Are you
I'm
tired?
tired too, so.
Yes, Eileen, we were at John and Molly's house. That is the couch in the main, by the crazy mirror. I hear background noise. Why am I hearing background noise, Eric? You're fired. Okay, you're rehired. I love you.
It's a background loop that starts with silence.
It's a silence.
It's silence.
Silence is going.
But you know, actually, that there are kind of theories that are being explored now for EVPs using solid objects as a medium for recording them, bouncing waves off of furniture, etc. The idea being that entities can use the energy available in solid objects as well as energy available in the atmosphere as amplifiers, etc. Which, I mean, we may find on down the line that's very true, that because even a rock at a molecular level is vibrating.
Right.
And so, you know, energy can be thought of in all of those terms. And
I actually read somewhere where they actually measured the vibration of a selenite stone, and it was actually higher than. What was it higher than? It was higher than like our normal, like the normal rate that we vibrate. So they're saying that a selenite stone can bring somebody's vibration actually considerably higher, and probably open up that universal consciousness, I would think. But you know, it's just it's a cleansing stone, and it's an energy cleansing stone. So if you believe in that, I'm forcing my beliefs on anybody.
but if that's the case, I can see why. I could see how spirit could use an object like that to perhaps amplify itself or to interact in some way.
Well, and you know, I've thought about, you know, they say that the quartz crystal is an amplifier. I've got some large quartz that I've thought about bringing out. I mean, maybe we should do that on some time on a tour as well.
Well, yeah, and or even you can do an EVP box and create a box and put large crystal inside of it and see if you get anything versus what you get outside of it. And I think that's one thing too, is that everyone needs to keep thinking about ways to approach all of this and to explore it. Everyone, we get wrapped up in the gadgets we have and keep doing the same things over and over, or occasionally something new comes out that seems it's a nice new gadget. But eventually, to get further in research than we're at now, we're going to have to explore new theories, new processes.
I kind of like what Michael Lynch was doing in documenting more from a spiritual level in a way. I think that's where I think we're too reliant as a group, not specifically DSL, but as paranormal researchers, I think we're too reliant on electronics. And I work on computers really, so you know. But I think that I think in general, as human beings, we rely on electronics too much. But really, in a paranormal world, I think we rely on it too much. I think that people forget that their bodies are probably the best conduit you could ever have, and it will alert you to different things, something like harm you or not harm you, or whatever. If something's there, it's not there. If you pay attention to, I mean, we use it a lot. I mean, and we'll walk through buildings, and Lisa and I both will talk about what we're feeling and what's going on, and you know, anything that we may get from the environment. I will touch houses. I will try to get information from the house itself, different objects. if we see something that looks kind of old or out of place, or you know, that we think could be a cause, you know, I'll try to pull information from it. And people forget about that. I mean, they're so visual and audio that they try to. It's always got to be some sort of tool that's got to help you do it. It doesn't. You don't need to. I see stuff all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I see stuff, I hear stuff, I feel stuff. So does Lisa. It's not. You know, is it documentable? Not really. Kinda. You know, in a way. I mean, last night's investigation was. Everything that I was getting was documentable through the client. The client, you know, it almost turned into kind of a John Edwards session. It's kind of what it felt like to me, but
A little bit.
it was. I mean, the client could document and give information based on information that I was getting. So, yeah, it's documentable. Do I have some sort of piece of equipment that's got it recorded? Yeah, it's probably on video, but you know, I mean, I think we've gone too far one way, and I think I'm rambling, but I think we've gone too far one way of using electronics in this field.
And I understand, you know, I certainly understand why, and at the same time, we're very cautious about what we call evidence, and we don't present it as evidence unless we can show it by independent means.
Yeah, they don't sit me on the table and say, John is evidence. With a paranormal. Never mind.
There are some days that I'd like to, but
It's true. I can't.
But you know, and that is the thing, is that because for any of us to look at what other people have done and say, is that evidence? Unless you can show me video, or you can let me listen to audio, it's hard to validate what other people experience, and that's the real problem.
Right.
How do you convince someone of that? Because unfortunately, as we all know, there are people who are not always forthright or above board with everything.
No, not in this field.
Or any field.
That's true.
And so it's that balancing what can be very valid with what is acceptable as proof or good evidence by someone who's not there at the time. And I'm not sure that that's a problem that you can ever fully solve.
I mean, unless we come up, and then we're going back to technology, unless we come up with something that can actually allow them to manifest regularly. How about that? I mean, we've got EMF pumps and all that stuff, but you know, we don't have anything that we could throw out on the floor that they could pull energy from and say and manifest.
Right.
I mean, consistently, right? I mean, because it just doesn't happen. So.
And maybe it will in the future, maybe it won't.
Yeah.
And then again, you know, it kind of goes back to this is
for responsible.
We encourage everyone to visit. That I forgot where I was going.
Sorry, squirrel.
That's all right. I forgot. I don't remember where I was going.
Where is Dr.Chuck? Well, he called twice. He was unable to answer, so we were kind of hoping he would call during the show, but it hasn't worked out.
But we haven't heard from him, so we don't know if he's had something unexpectedly happen. But if he doesn't make it on today, we will get him back on as soon as we can. But Dr. Chuck Kennedy is a very interesting person with a Ph.D. in neuroscience and has been in the paranormal field for 40 years, author of more than 15 books, and he, like we do conducting ghost tours, he does also conduct ghost tours in the Branson, Missouri area. And so would love to talk to him right now. Actually, what we're talking about would be very apropos, very appropriate for how does the the field of neuroscience play into people's experiences. And I think that anytime that we have the human mind involved, that how we perceive reality, whether it's from a spiritual perspective of what is reality, or a biochemical perspective of how do we actually experience things, I think it is relevant. Because, perfectly honest, I can't prove that John's sitting here. He can just be a figment of my imagination. Sometimes I wish.
Freaking nightmare.
But, I think those are the universal questions that that everyone comes down to, is how can we prove anything exists beyond our own experiences. And I think that's the fundamental question for the paranormal field, that we continue to struggle to figure out how do you answer that beyond the answer is 42.
I think it's funny that I was thinking, well, the answer is 42, actually. I was there. What is that, Robin?
That's Dr. Chuck's phone number.
Oh.
The exact same one I've called twice.
Yeah.
Oh, I think it's, I was just, while you were talking, I was sitting here thinking about
way back, prior to all this wonderful, glorious stuff that we have. Oh, Robinson's assistant.
Oh, awesome.
People believed very deeply in spirituality, in spirits and entities, both sides of, negative, positive, etc., etc. I think it's funny how science basically separated that, and now science is reproving that it exists. So it kind of, it's almost, we're coming full circle, and I think, and we've talked about the shift in consciousness before with different guests, that people are realizing that it's more than just this. It's more than just this house. This house is great, but it's more than just this solid stuff. There's more out there. With science proving it, I think the paranormal field is going to get more exciting, because we are going to start seeing more spiritual, more deeply spiritual people doing paranormal research as opposed to people research.
I certainly hope so. The pendulum always swings on things, and
Sure.
I think right now it's swinging that way for adventure seekers because of the attention it's gotten. Do we need to call again, Eric?
Sure, I could try.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
You can call me.
you already did.
Oh. Just call my phone. Call me.
Talk amongst yourselves, this will take me a second.
You're not calling myself.
This would be a very good point for if we could get Dr. Chuck on the line. So.
Okay. Just talking. Yeah. Sure, it's riveting.
Hello, this is Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
Hi, Chuck.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good. We tried earlier and weren't able to connect. I'm glad to have you on, and sorry it's going to be run short. We will have you on again to make up for that, too.
Well, I apologize. One of the downsides of being in the Ozarks is things don't work as well as they're supposed to, especially cell phone.
Right.
we do understand, since we're at the other end of the Ozarks in Missouri, too, but not a problem.
one of the things about the Ozarks is cool. I want to be in the Ozarks when the world comes to the end because they're always 18 months behind the rest of the world. So
Absolutely.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
I get to live another 18 months out of life, you know?
At a very minimum, 18 months.
Yeah.
There's still
So
some
how you guys
months.
doing?
We're good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
We kind of told reviewers a little bit about you a bit ago, but and while we've been waiting, we've just been talking a little bit about the spiritual versus empirical side of the paranormal field, and we'd love to get your take on that, especially from the neuroscience background.
Well, most scientists don't believe in religion. But the interesting thing, if you've really watched the science field over the last, probably 10, 15 years, even the scientists that won't get on the religious bandwagon will get on the spiritual bandwagon because there's so much that's being done, especially with the invention of the functional MRI, where we can actually see what part of the brain is lighting up during what event. And when they've studied mediums, or they've studied nuns praying, they can find that a whole lot of what's going on in the same part of the brain is happening during any type of spiritual event, whether they're praying or whether they're actually communicating with spirits on the other side. And it kind of ties the whole spiritual side to the whole paranormal side.
Exactly. Actually, John was just talking about that.
Right. Yeah, that's actually...
And it makes it pretty cool because now, you could sit there and you could have all the opinions you want. But when the functional MRI shows that, because the cool thing about the functional MRI as opposed to a PET scan, it shows the brain lighting up with different colors during events. In a PET scan, they have to inject dye into your body, and we follow the dye through the PET scan into the brain and see different parts of the brain activated. But the beauty of the functional MRI, it just looks at oxygen. When that part of your brain is getting more oxygen because it's working, then it lights up under the functional MRI. So there's no invasive dyes to deal with. And we then get to see real quickly, and we have a quantitative answer as to what's going on in the brain while people are doing different things. And on the spiritual side, we're finding that there's parts of the where the amygdala and the hippocampus come together in the secular gyrus, there's lighting up, which is only occurs during a spiritual moment. So this is pretty cool. We now know that in the brain, actual functions happen when somebody is being spiritual, or whether it's a medium communicating with a spirit on the other side. And we have, whether you believe in spirits or not, now you have to explain why is that happening if you don't believe in it. And they don't have an answer for that.
Right. And I'm sure there are skeptics who basically say that it's some sort of self-delusional event that's stimulating the brain, but I find that hard to believe because things are there. It's too prevalent. What are your takes?
That was one of the big arguments was that, it's a hallucination. But the hallucinations usually originate out of the limbic system, not in the amygdala and the hippocampus. So if it's truly a hallucination, why is it coming from a different part of the brain than any other hallucination?
Very
That's true.
Very, very interesting. How do you think that relates to someone who's, say, experiencing a haunting in their home?
See, that's so subjective, because what's a haunting in the home? Everybody is different. As a ghost hunting group, you guys get calls that, there's things going on in my house, and I need someone to come out and take a look at, and blah, 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 and you find out that, maybe it's just, maybe they have issues, maybe they have mental issues, maybe they have electrical issues in their building, and maybe it's just something that's not paranormal. So, to sit there and until you've actually investigated, until you've actually researched, got the subjective data out of the way, and look at the actual physical evidence, it's hard to really say that there is a haunting in that home. And then you have to backtrack and look at the whole spiritual side of it, and the whole does it all tie in together. One of the common things is, people will sit there and they're seeing things. They're seeing shadows, and it's not really a hallucination, but it's a side effect of their medications. And I'm not just talking narcotics or antipsychotics. One of the most common medications that cause visual hallucinations is antibiotics. So you find out that these people have other things going on, and maybe every time they go down to the basement to do laundry, they're complaining of, oh, there's somebody watching me. I know there's somebody watching me there. And you go down and investigate the basement, and you find out that they've got a transformer up above the washing machine that feeds the doorbell. And it's a low-frequency 20 hertz transformer. And we know that 20 hertz electromagnetic fields cause paranoia. So every time they go to do laundry, they think somebody's watching them, and it's really just an electromagnetic field. So there's so many variables in a whole haunting.
Is the antibiotics, that really fascinated me, by the way. The antibiotics, is that an allergy that's causing them to see things?
Not necessarily, no. An allergy would have to be a protein antigen antibody reaction. And that would develop into other things where they have laryngeal spasms and various things like that. It's actually just a side effect of the medication. It changes the proteins in the brain as the antibiotics working on your body. Have you ever had an upper respiratory infection, common cold, and they give you Levaquin for your cold?
Yeah.
Levaquin is the most common antibiotic out there. I mean, we give it all the time. But it's also the number one drug for hallucinations, for visual hallucinations. I mean, more so than morphine, more so than OxyContin. It causes more hallucinations because it changes the serotonin in the brain, and then the hallucinations start in.
So that'd be really pertinent to know if you have someone who suddenly started having activity where, say, they've lived there 10 years, but suddenly there's activity in the last month type thing.
Exactly, that's a possibility. And that's why, a lot of those groups will sit there and they'll ask, where are you on any medications? And they're looking for the heavy duty, the big guns. And in reality, it's the simple stuff. And it's something that just happens, and because of the chemistry of the brain changes, and they start to hallucinate a little bit. And not heavy-duty hallucinations. It's not like they're taking LSD and they're seeing colors, and suddenly they can see sound. And that's interesting because even people who were born totally blind, you put them on LSD and suddenly they see colors.
Wow.
And they have no idea what colors are because they've never seen colors. But you put them on LSD and they're starting to describe these things and they're seeing colors. So the brain is very easy to trick. And when you're getting into the spirituality side of things, where you've got your inner soul and your consciousness, and I think that's what I really try to get away from is the whole consciousness brain thing. Because the reality is the brain is just a processor. And looking inside the brain for human consciousness is kind of like looking inside your radio for the disc jockey. You're not going to see him in that little box. And you're not really going to see consciousness inside the human brain. The human brain helps process everything, but it's an incredibly poor processor because it interprets everything we see, everything we hear, everything we feel. It doesn't report it, it interprets it. And is it interpreting it right? Well, part of the prefrontal cortex is designed to interpret everything, and it relies on past memories. If you grew up on a farm in the middle of nowhere, and there's no major cities around, and there's no airport, and every time an airplane goes overhead, which could be once every 3 months, and you're a little child and you go, "Oh, Mama, what's that sound?" And she goes, "Oh, that's the cows farting." Well, then you grow up to be an adult and you move to Chicago and you're outside O'Hare Airport and you're asking your coworkers, "How come all the cows are farting so much?" Because it's the only thing you know. we relate everything to past experiences and past knowledge. And so if we try to sit there and experience something new, we can't just experience it. We relate it back to something we've already experienced. And we usually get it wrong. We are incredibly poor witnesses because we process everything.
That's true. I'm an attorney by trade, and it's very true. Eyewitness testimony can be very unreliable.
And if you look at the over 200 people have gotten off of death row because DNA proved they weren't involved. Of the over 200, over 90% of them were convicted on eyewitness testimony.
Very true.
It's just the poorest example of we just don't make good witnesses. And that's why, as a paranormal investigator, as a ghost hunter, we need to work on quantitative examples and not just what we think we saw, because what we think we saw was probably way, way off the mark.
And I agree with you. We tend to try to, we don't call it evidence unless we can duplicate it. I mean, we use our experiences as guides on an investigation pretty heavily. But
yeah, if you have a personal experience and you've got physical evidence along with it, you've got EVPs, you've got photographs, you've got electronic recordings, you can then put the whole package together and say, we believe something happened there. A couple of years ago, a buddy of mine up in Chicago, Kevin France, him and I put together the Kennedy France litmus test for the personal experience. And what we did is we gave weighting factors to different issues, and it's on the Ghost of Branson website on the download page, and it's called the Kennedy France litmus test. And if you take a personal experience, which can be what a client tells you they think happened, and you go through I think it's 150 questions, and you go through all the questions, and you answer this. Each answer is weighted so that at the end of the whole thing, it's on an Excel spreadsheet, so it automatically scores for you. And at the end, it gives you a numeric total, and it calculates, is your personal experience credible? That's not to say it didn't happen, but can you sit there and convincingly tell somebody that, yeah, I know it happened because of this, and this. And it just takes the whole personal experience and tries to quantify it as much as possible. Because in the end, all we're looking for is a quantifiable data that we believe a place has a haunting.
How do you assign the weight to those variables, though?
To be honest, we did this about 8 years ago, and we spent probably close to a year looking at different things, the probabilities, looking at medications. We looked at medications, and I spent 35 years as a registered nurse. I have given out more pills than I can count. And we would look at the medications and see what's the risk of this causing a side effect of a hallucination, of a delusion, of a visionary problem. And after doing all this, we would then rate medications. We would rate whether are you in a house that's more of an apartment and you've got tenants upstairs, tenants downstairs? Does the streetcar go by? All different factors that will influence sound. All different factors that will influence what you feel. And we sat there and over a period of time, we looked at past cases that we knew to be credible, cases we knew that weren't credible for one reason or another, and then we calculated values for it. And it's kind of basically boils down to it was an educated guess based on experience. I've been doing this 40 years. I looked at things that have happened over the 40 years, and then we gave it numbers.
Well, and I think everyone needs to try to go through that process as much as they can, because a lot of times, you can figure out what's going on. One case we had several years ago was a home, and the part of the claim was that they would hear what sounded like the sound of a baby crying, and they'd even recorded it, and it sounded just like a baby crying. But we were able to ascertain it actually was a neighbor's cat that would get under the house, and it didn't sound like a cat, it sounded like a baby, but we're able to track it down. And
I know exactly what you mean. When I was a kid, we used to have a cat that would sit outside our kitchen window. And you would swear a baby's out there in the grass, and a baby just crying away. And we were kids. We'd ask my mom and dad, why is there a baby out there? And my dad'd go, it's that damn cat again. And he'd go outside and shoot the cat. And then when he'd go to chase the cat, then you hear the cat go, meow, and you'd know it was a cat. But the first couple times it happened, we don't understand why there's a baby outside our kitchen window.
right,
And if you've never experienced that, if somebody tells you, oh, that's not a baby crying, that's a cat, you're going to look at them funny.
right, exactly. And so, yeah, I think that critical thinking is very necessary in this field. But as you said, the brain works as a processor. We still have to use that processor to interpret the information and to make that critical thinking. So it's kind of hard to take the brain out of the equation.
Oh, yeah, you definitely can. But once you understand that it's not objective, at least you can approach it from a subjective standpoint and realize that you have to think of maybe other possibilities. And sadly, a lot of groups sit there and go, no, I saw it, therefore I know what it is. I heard it, I know what it is. I heard that baby crying, there's a baby crying in there. And you try to explain, no, it could have been a cat. Nope, there's no way it was a cat. You think I don't know a baby crying? I had babies when they were younger. I know what a baby sounds like. And if they're going to be bullheaded, all you can do is walk away.
That's true. Can you give us a quick example of a credible haunting that you've dealt with?
Probably actually the one that when I was on my ghost story on A&E a couple of years ago, I moved into a place that was 160 years old. It was all open floor plan. I was teaching caregivers how to care for their loved ones. And because of that, I had wheelchairs, walkers, hospital beds. And so the first couple of nights I'm there, maybe a week, 2 weeks into being there, I hear the wheelchair out there rolling back and forth. And the footrests are banging into the folding chairs. And I figured, there's probably a spirit in here playing with the wheelchair. So I just hollered, knock it off. And it stopped. And then ultimately, a couple of months later, this would go on every other night or so. And I found a gravestone out in the backyard that said Christopher Mulhan, son of John and Bridget Mulhan, aged 8 years, 8 months, and 6 days. And he died August 6th, 1855. And here, it's August 1st, 2010. So I'm sitting there going, hey, Friday night, ghost hunt. And I set up the cameras, set up all the equipment, and I got the camera in the wheelchair because I knew he liked to play in that. And a couple hours into it, the wheelchair starts to rock back and forth. It doesn't just go forward. It literally goes back and forth, side by side, back and forth. And I got it on film. And then as I came up upon it with my handy cam, so I've got the infrared camera off to the side on it. I've got my handy cam straight on it. And I'm checking for temperatures. I thought, is he standing behind it, kind of pushing it back and forth, or is he sitting in it? And when I check temperatures, and you can see on the video, I'm checking temperatures all around the side of the wheelchair, and it's like 78, 80 degrees. And then right in the middle of the wheelchair is 43 degrees.
Oh, wow.
And then I said, if you move the wheelchair, can you move it again for me? And it lunges forward.
Wow.
And so it was a pretty dramatic video. And there were some people who said, oh, no, that can't. You had that on strings. So Ron Fabiani from the Paranormal Cops, he's a friend of mine, he goes, and they rent a wheelchair. They found that, yeah, I probably could have done it with strings. I just needed 33 strings to be able to get it to go the directions that I had it going. So obviously, I'm really not a ghost hunter. I am a master puppeteer. I can work 33 strings at once.
That's what I was about to say. You're doing marionettes then. I hate to say, Chuck, we are kind of getting close to the hour, and we want to have you back again because I'm fascinated with the conversation. Do a quick shout out for where people can get a hold of you, and as well as the tours you do.
Okay, I do the Ghost of Branson tours, and it's at ghostofbranson.com. And all my contact information is there for Branson, Missouri. I'm working with an amazing lady down in Dallas, Robin LaRose, and we're setting up Ghost of DFW for Dallas-Fort Worth. We've got tours opening up in Fort Worth Stockyards, in Dallas Dealey Plaza, where Kennedy was shot, and also at Dallas Deep Ellum, the old blues neighborhood. And Robin has gotten some amazing EVPs out of those locations, and so we'll be opening that up by Labor Day. So we've got a lot of good things going on, a lot of active stuff. The spirits are wild.
Well, fantastic. And Chuck, I hope you'd be willing to come back and talk to us again before long, and we'll delve into this a little deeper. We really enjoyed it.
Oh, that would be great. I'd love to, and I really apologize. We missed connections earlier.
That's all right. It happens. And we'll have you back. But thank you very much, and I encourage everyone to go look at Chuck's site and check out the tours that they have going. Thank you very much, Chuck.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Have a peaceful night.
You too.
And everybody stay tuned to Slinky Rome, Closer to Death. She's got Randy Hardy from Deep South Carolina.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.